Welcome to the ArtMiabo Podcast, the show where we talk to fine artists, creative minds, and cultural backers from the African continent. I'm your host, Gift Enyadike, and if you enjoy these conversations, please leave a like and a comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Now, my guest today is an ambassador, technology advocate, and entrepreneur with a very strong interest in artificial intelligence, digital transformation, and the future of Africa's innovation ecosystem. Mr. Rume Dominic, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, my friend, and I'm excited to be here with you as well.
Excited as well. Likewise. Thank you so much. So I deliberately went a bit vague with your intro because I wanted you to introduce yourself to the audience, to those who may be unfamiliar with you.
Thank you very much. Sometimes I get jealous when I want to introduce myself. However, it is important for me to communicate that my name is Rume Dominic. I am an artificial intelligence engineer. I'm a founder and an author. I build practical artificial intelligence and blockchain systems. These I've been doing for about 8 years now. So I've written about 5 books. They are all on Amazon, eBay, on my website. I've also trained over 12,000 people on technologies of the future because I am passionate about the next generation of leaders. Currently,
Amazing.
I'm in the UK speaking with you, and I'm completing my MSc in artificial intelligence and business strategy. I have a pending UK patent application in verifiable artificial intelligence accountability. And to top it, just imagine when you strip away all of these titles, I'm simply a builder and someone who wants to serve humanity, drive humanity forward. And I believe that a future is truly available with the synergy of art and technology.
Thank you so much for that. Could you tell us a bit more about your professional journey? Honestly, why AI? What set you on that path?
Okay, I trained as an electrical electronics engineer about, say, 12 years ago, by a decade now. And from there, I moved into human satisfaction, hospitality, customer satisfaction, because I was a customer service representative with MTN at a point in time. And while I did that for about 6 months, I started falling in love with technologies of the future. So that made me my father was in the financial space. My father was an accountant, and I also looked at it, what type of technology would allow me break into the financial space at a point in time. And the technology then that was available was blockchain. And I got into the blockchain ecosystem. And something blockchain did for me was that it opened up a new paradigm for me. I started understanding smart contracts. I started understanding how to make the transfer of value to be frictionless. But that took me to an extent when I got a bit of failure in certain things. I needed a situation where if I'm executing a smart contract and party A is going to communicate with party B, I also needed a brain on top of that smart contract. And because I needed a brain on top of that smart contract, and I knew that the future of the next technology is going to be artificial intelligence, and it is only forward progressive for me to add artificial intelligence into my technology stack, because when I have embedded systems in the electrical electronic side as an engineer, I have money flowing. I truly need a brain to be able to coordinate each and every single thing. So that's the reason why I decided to go for artificial intelligence. Although about 3 years ago, I had written my first book, From Code to Consciousness, Connecting Artificial Intelligence and Human for Powerful Results. I produced a couple of courses after that, and this has truly now helped a lot of young people to find their paths learning technology. So I became satisfied because it helped me to truly rescue the next generation of leaders. So that is why I've decided to stick here in artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence makes the creation of value to also be frictionless. I want to teach this and give this value to the rest of the world. 8 years later, after building with the blockchain technology, I'm here with artificial intelligence doing what I love to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So, like you said, AI, that's the big passion for you. That's the thing you've been teaching people about. For many people, AI can feel either incredibly exciting or deeply intimidating. And I think in some sectors of the art community, actually a very large sector of the art community in particular, it can also be somewhat offensive because of certain things. And we'll get into that a bit later. But I'd like to know, why do you believe it is so important for us to engage this? And I guess, and I think because this is an African podcast, why is it so important for Africans especially to engage with it like right now?
You said something during your communication that for some people, it is somewhat difficult for them to actually break in or engage with this type of technology. Yesterday, I had a
Yes.
personal one-on-one class with, in Nigeria, they will call it a bricklayer. In the UK, yeah, they will call it a builder, right? And what happened? I basically communicated to that builder that imagine the same way that you have been directing your workers on site. You give them a task and you come back and monitor that task, whether did they do it well. If they did not do it well, you push further to say, get it done better. That's the same thing every African must do to engage now. Every African only needs to pick an artificial intelligence tool. And when they pick that artificial intelligence tool, what they would do is to engage with that artificial intelligence tool by giving it a task, monitoring it if the task came out very well, and push further to be able to engage to refine that task. And this is all Africans need to do, because you don't get better by wishing to get better. A wise man only said that wishing you will be great is good, but only after you have started the process of working to be great will you ever become truly great. And that is what Africans must do, because I want you to understand that with this technology, Africans have access to power. And this is highly innovative technology that it will no longer be a situation of there was a gate, but a situation of did Africans believe enough not to have any excuse and just engage with the technology? This truly is what would be the difference maker.
Thank you for that. I think I want to go back to something I said earlier about some parts of the art community around the world being offended by AI when it comes to things like how it almost seems to, in some parts, replace human creativity. And there's also the unfortunate issues of people's art being stolen and used to train with AI. And you yourself, you mentioned awaiting a patent with regards to AI accountability. And I'd actually like you to expand a bit on that while answering this question. So, like, from your perspective, how should creative professionals approach AI? Where do you see the relationship, evolving? And also, again, if you could expand a bit more on your patent with regards to AI accountability.
All right. I'm excited you asked me this question because it means that you have truly paid attention to the things that I love. And one of the major industries we have is the healthcare industry. We also have industries like the manufacturing industry, and these, amongst others, legal industry and all that. Imagine maybe an artificial intelligence makes a decision and an external auditor wants to audit or verify that decision, because the biggest problem with artificial intelligence is this: people are unable to differentiate which is real from what is fake. And because that's the biggest underlying problem of artificial intelligence, and we've seen a situation where voices of popular musicians, music of artists have been cloned by artificial intelligence, sold out or streamed online, and people that never had original creation of that particular message or content earns from it, which you might term in the art industry as a copyright infringement, and a couple of things like that. Like I said and established, artificial intelligence, just like blockchain, makes the creation of value or the transfer of value to be frictionless. Artificial intelligence has made the creation of value to also be frictionless. But we can use blockchain as a technology to solve the biggest problem of artificial intelligence, which is people are unable to differentiate what is real from what is fake. Now, how do we solve that? Imagine you have a healthcare or a healthcare company, and then your artificial intelligence tells the patient what drug to take and also prescribes a particular health center for you to go and get that drug. Now, an external auditor does not trust your company or does not trust the artificial intelligence in your company and wants to audit that company, that why did the artificial intelligence make this decision to give this patient this drug, or what made the artificial intelligence to be able to direct to this position. If an external auditor wants to do that, currently, there is really no way external auditors are able to do that. And that single gap is the reason why I have built a working product and deployed it on GitHub on blockchain and artificial intelligence, accountability, verifiability, and provenance. So that you can be able to track the decisions of the artificial intelligence at the point it's making a particular decision, and have an audit on the blockchain that you can use to understand and verify when that decision was made, what happened that that decision was made like that, and why it was actually made like that. So this gap is the reason why that patent I filed it, and we want to be able to ensure that we close that gap in the market. Because another major reason, I was speaking on the iconic African Council about 2 weeks ago, as I was their keynote speaker for that webinar. And we're communicating about Africa and Africans in diaspora or foreign direct investment coming in into Africa and a couple of things like that. One of the recent things we've seen is Elon Musk unearthing a lot of money that's going through the US SAID into Africa that is not verified, not accountable, and a lot of things like that. So for money truly to flow into some of this art industry into Africa, people want to actually be able to see that, okay, if you are putting this into artificial intelligence venture, can we truly verify this particular audit trail? Imagine this. The reason why you trust to use a couple of things today is because you can verify it. The biggest problem of man is falsification of data and trust. And when we have a technology married with artificial intelligence that enables us to remove the problem of falsification of data and amplify trust, then real capital, real artwork will start getting sold, because we'll be able to verify the original creator of that type of art. We'll be able to verify how these funds are moving, whether we're using artificial
Yes.
intelligence to be able to make the decisions. But there is an audit trail that an external person that is not in your company can go on a tamper-proof public source website to be able to check for that information. And this is the difference
That's
maker, especially as we go forward, because the collectors of artwork, they want to collect original items.
yes.
I remember a conversation I was having with the superstar and champion global maestro ArtMiabo herself, where she communicated to me that we could produce her artwork style using some artificial intelligence tools and be able to then track the traction it has gained, maybe for a space of 1 year or 6 months. And you can imagine, when these particular artworks are created with artificial intelligence, they are now uploaded on a marketplace that is blockchain enabled. So there is an audit trail that this artwork came from this original artist, and this artwork is being sold through this blockchain marketplace. So there's a traceability that whether it was artificial intelligence generated, but the source, the origin source came from this Leonardo da Vinci, came from ArtMiabo, came from Picasso, and then people now trust it enough to truly buy it and pay the real value in the age of artificial intelligence. But that would only happen if you have an audit and a verifiable trail or a technology
Yeah.
underneath it.
So then I think on my front then now, if I think from my perspective, this is me, like I'm looking at a piece of art, maybe through, through that audit trail, I'm able to find out that this is AI generated and that the original artist, this belongs to so and so, whether it's ArtMiabo, whether it's whoever, whether it's Studio Ghibli as or something like that. Would that not maybe push people to go, okay, I think earlier you mentioned people's songs, people's artwork being taken and sold and someone else is profiting off it. So yes, wouldn't that like push people to go straight to the original artist, to the source of the AI generated work now that they're able to actually track where this has come from, and instead
Yes,
actually hold off on purchasing it?
yes, you are correct that it would encourage people to truly go back to the source. But what would they be going back to the source to do? They will be going back to the source to do the right thing. They'll be going
Right.
back to the source to take permission for your intellectual property.
Yes.
They'll be going back to the source because now that can be legally pursued and those people can be sanctioned, which restores
Yes.
sanity back to the ecosystem of art.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. My next question, like you said, like you mentioned, I think you trained about 12,000 people, a recurring theme. That's that education and empowering of the next generation through technology. And, looking at the current generation, those you have trained and also just generally, what skills and mindsets do you believe will be the most valuable in a future increasingly shaped by both AI and other emerging technologies?
What skills and mindsets will be extremely valuable in the nearest future
Yes.
that will be shaped by
Yes.
AI and other technologies?
Yeah, because it's not going away. Genie's out of the bottle. So, what do we need to just get in our heads?
Well, if you're a good student, disciple, and follower of Rume Dominic, you will know this my favorite quote. That if you must learn any skill set in this 21st century, the skill set you must learn first is creativity. Creativity and communication becomes a second soft skill that one must learn. And in an age where everything is moving extremely fast, having the skill of patience to be able to observe, analyze, plan becomes extremely irreplaceable, because that skill of patience would amplify something that artificial intelligence does not do very well right now, which is judgment.
Yes.
Because it is based on the inputs and the judgment of a human right now into artificial intelligence, just like we learned in computer, garbage in, garbage out, that artificial intelligence will
Yes.
give you an output.
Yes.
Another key skill is the skill of relationship, which truly you cannot do without having that skill set of communication and creativity, like we started with. Because when you are creative enough, you would put yourself in an emotional intelligence position to understand, what does gift want? What do I communicate that it doesn't get offensive to gift? And then we'll now be able to truly scale every other thing in our hand. Because you notice, even in the Bible, when the children of man decided that they would get to God, the only skill that God crashed for them was communication. And communication builds every empire. For us to be here today
Yes.
having this and educating our audience is because we were able to communicate and we applied creativity to it. And this truly is a
Yes.
difference maker.
Yes, thank you so much. I guess looking even further into the future, when you look ahead 10 years, what gives you the most optimism about Africa's role in the global technology landscape? And what would you like to see happen for the continent to fully realize that potential?
One thing that can happen in the continent that would help us realize that potential is having connectors like yourself that have been able to connect now with intellectual property from outside the continent and bringing that intellectual property into the continent, because human skill is an exportable asset. Some countries like China, some countries like Indonesia, some countries, they have exportation of their human resources out into other countries to be able to, that is their major
Yes.
trade. And when you have
Yes.
Africa with an average population or age grade of 19, 20 years old, it then means that we have exportable assets. And one of the difference maker is that all of these people that are being exported right now, or maybe we are having to be able to have connectors like you, they now become builders. Like I have become a builder now, because it is Africans that will build the type of future that we really want. It will not be exported or maybe fabricated from anywhere. It will be because of our effort to actually do it. Because most of our past leaders have only been communicators, and they were never executors or builders. They communicate, make promises, they never execute, they never build.
Promises.
And I would tell you my personal experience. In fact, this is the most, I think this is the most important part of this particular webinar right now. 11 months ago, or maybe 9 months ago, I did not have some of the skill sets that I have today. Now, 2 years ago, no, about 5 years ago, I was an electrical electronics engineer in Nigeria into the blockchain technology. But today, as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to you in the capacity of an artificial intelligence engineer here in the UK.
Yes.
5 days ago, I started my website, because about 5 days ago, my birthday was like 3 days ago. And usually on my birthdays for the
Oh,
last
happy
2 years.
belated. Happy
Thank you
belated.
very much. And on every of my birthday, usually for the last 4 or 5 years, I've always released a book on my birthday from the COVID. I always release one book. And that's the reason why consistency for the last 5 years, I'm now an author of 5 different books. Now, what used to happen? I would pay an average of maybe 400,000 naira. That's about say £200 to a particular developer in Nigeria to help me do that. Maybe to just change one thing on the website, or to just upload the new graphics of the logo of the picture of the book and put the write-up on the website. A couple of those things like that. Now,
Yes.
every year too, when I publish my book, I usually use like maybe about $1,000 for the publishing company to be able to do the whole editing and all of those things, the write-up and all those setup and all that. But as I speak to you
Yes.
now as an artificial intelligence engineer, in a space of 48 hours, if you go on the rumedominic.com website right now, it is a very beautiful, unique website that has been built by yours truly communicating with you right now on this call. And it is way much more 7 times better, 110, 15 times better than what someone else could have done for me, because it truly embodies my creativity. When you're also creating with some of these people and you make one or two few changes, they might be telling you to pay extra money, or sometimes you might even try to not respect yourself to not make some of the changes you want to make. But in this space of time, I've closed that gap. I have closed that gap. So as a leader before, I had that gap. I could talk about it, but I could not do it. I had to invest £50,000 into myself to make this shift and difference in this space of 11 months. For me to be able to do this now was a deliberate investment of £50,000 into myself and my skill set to actually have this shift. So Nigerian leaders, like I said again, they will always continue to communicate it, but are they bold and courageous enough to take that leap of faith to change things? This will be the difference maker.
Rume, thank you so much for that. It was great having you. It was great hearing you. This was a wonderful conversation. And to you, our viewers, if you enjoyed this conversation, once again, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel and a comment as well. Visit. I just had a look at your website, by the way, Rume. So yeah, it is a great site. I encourage you all to have a look as well. We will see you all next time. This is ArtMiabo.